emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus.
You have accessed entry 220.DE1411, certificate number 24940. Christmas KFC.
Kentucky Christmas.
クリスマスが今年もやってくる
一番あったかい日になりますように。クリスマスはケンタッキーのパーティーバーレルで。
Merry Christmas, Ken.
Happy holidays to all who celebrate the various holidays.
Happy Hanukkah. We're in the middle of Hanukkah right now. Happy Kwanzaa coming up.
Kwanzaa in, what, a few days?
Just a few days, yeah, 3 or 4 days. Happy Festivus. Happy Buddhist Festival of Christmas.
What's the closest Hindu or Muslim festival? I mean, the Muslim ones move around in the calendar, in the solar calendar.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Is there a Hindu Christmas?
Yeah. You're going to be the only person not in a red state Googling, is there a Hindu Christmas
I didn't
right now?
say is there, but Pongal, which is the 3-day festival held in the South, celebrating the winter solstice.
I mean, the thing is that their festival of lights or whatever, Diwali, is not anywhere around the December season.
Right.
So,
well, in southern India, right?
What is it that makes it a Christmas festival?
I think just winter solstice because it is in the northern hemisphere, so it would be around the same time. India, I'm saying.
Diwali moves also. Did you know this? Is it for lunar reasons?
It's got to be.
It's an early autumn celebration, and yet it's in November next year. How is that early autumn?
That seems late autumn.
Maybe autumn's different when you're in a tropical subcontinent.
Well, in any case, we're not afraid to teach the controversy here. And
what's the controversy?
Oh, I don't remember.
Which winter holiday should you celebrate?
Yeah, or can you even say Merry Christmas? That's the controversy that suddenly I remembered. Because, of course, Christmas is being canceled by liberal ivory tower, leftist woke crybabies like you and me.
The Starbucks cups used to have a picture of the crucifixion on them, and now they just have a snowflake.
I know a person who, and this, I don't know what this says about me, but when people go around the country and to commemorate all the different places they've been, they used to collect little thymbles or little bells, spoons that are bells. You saw a lot. And this is a younger person, a millennium person, who collected local Starbucks mugs, which apparently was a thing.
Are they different?
Yeah, every different city or state would have its own. Like San Francisco, you visited the Starbucks in San Francisco.
That sounds so much cooler than my closet of Hard Rock T-shirts that I might just go throw them all away.
She actually has a wall where she displayed, and of course then they changed. And so the new mugs aren't as good as the old mugs. She has a wall where she displays all of her old, original Starbucks mugs. And I just pictured one with like a really gruesome, like Southern European crucifixion picture. And I was like, if only.
There might be somewhere.
Like the...
is there some small Italian town?
Sicilian Starbucks? But yeah, we we love all the Christmas traditions. Do you have any?
I thought you were going to say we love all the Christians.
We love every Christian, not everyone. But
God bless us, everyone. Asterisk.
Except for
the following.
Some people should die. What are some Christmas traditions that are unique to your family?
Ooh, we must have done this on this show before.
Who even knows?
They have
We've been
to be
doing this show
unique.
for 15 years.
They have to be unique. I always try to find a Christmas movie I've never seen. And that doesn't mean going into, I think for most people that would be like, well, there's 6 new Hallmark movies. Find one about the city girl coming home to her small town and romancing the handsome guy that runs the Christmas tree lot.
Have you seen Home Alone 2?
Yes.
Have you seen Home Alone 3?
Is there a Home Alone 3?
I think there's
is
like
that the one
9
with the
of them.
different kid?
Maybe.
No. I'm a Culkinian only. Like, to me, the rest are actually heresy and apocrypha. That kid doesn't exist. He was never home. He was never alone. He doesn't exist.
Is there a Christmas theme to Edward Scissorhands? Or is that more of a...
It's got snow.
Right, there is snow. Oh, yeah, right, of course. It snows on Christmas.
Because of him.
Because of Edward Scissorhands.
That movie denies the power, not just of Jesus, but of the weather.
Yeah.
To say that snow comes from a boy with
robot
scissors.
boy.
Did you see the story that was in the news a couple of weeks ago? I think it was recent, where Tom Cruise was talking about how he'd been offered the part. No, who was telling the story? Is Tim Burton telling the story? Tom Cruise is offered the part, and he meets with Tim Burton to talk about it. He's like, I just can't get over.
This guy's such a weirdo.
Well, it's mostly like, wait, his hands are scissors. Yes. So how does he go to the bathroom? Well, Tom, the movie probably won't address that. Well, I just think we have to grapple with this. People are going to want to know. Like, so the point might be that Tom Cruise did not make that movie, and therefore Johnny Depp became a star, all because Tom Cruise thought the movie should have more about Edward Scissorhands and how he wipes.
You know, if you watch Edward Scissorhands closely, he does use the
flat?
dull, flat top of the scissor to manipulate things that he doesn't want to cut.
Yes,
He
there's so
just
much you
forgets
can do.
sometimes. He just forgets and cuts things.
Cuts off Winona Ryder's head.
Yeah, but he does use the dull side. So he could conceivably, like pee at least, using the dull side of the scissor to keep from like peeing on his shoes.
Am I remembering right that in that movie he's such a shrinking violet that it's a plot point that he gets bullied by Anthony Michael Hall?
Yeah, but Anthony Michael Hall, when he was like a super buff.
But he's now a roided up Anthony.
Yeah,
but
he's trying.
He's below Anthony Michael Hall on the bullying food chain.
This was right at that moment when Anthony Michael Hall was like, I'm tired of playing a geek. I'm going to reinvent myself as a big movie star. And then nobody wanted it.
By the transitive property, that means he's also getting bullied there by Judd Nelson,
Yep.
Emilio Estevez, everybody.
Everybody bullies Edward Scissorhands. You know, the reason Tim Burton got his start was Pee Wee Herman
Right.
loved his little weird story about his hot dog.
Frankenweenie.
And then,
I think you're giving people the wrong idea about Tim Burton's artistic origins.
and then had him do Pee Wee's Great Adventure. So it's really,
Pee Wee Herman later canceled by a story about his little hot dog.
That's exactly right.
Full circle.
We lost so much when we canceled Pee Wee Herman.
Huge mistake.
Think about all the great culture that would have come out of that amazing, gifted little angel.
Well, would the third movie, would his Home Alone 3 have been more like Pee Wee's Big Adventure or more like Big Top Pee Wee? Because therein lies the problem.
Well,
What if it's diminishing returns every time Pee Wee Herman makes a movie?
maybe it would have been cross-collateralized with Batman, the first 2 Batman movies, and then there would have been a Pee Wee Batman vibe. Pretty hot when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, Pee Wee Herman really, he really advanced the gaying of America by somewhere between 10 and 20 years.
Oh, God bless him.
And Tim Burton's Batman was kind of pushing back on that. It took Joel Schumacher to really
Gay it up.
gay up Batman.
But Christmas traditions at your house, I remember you do put gifts in people's shoes.
We don't usually.
You did that one time?
We're like old world immigrants. Yes. My wife, Geppetto, often...
I came over to your house one time during the Christmas season, and there were gifts in my shoes
I feel
when
like
I left.
we had a Christmas party that year, and it turned out I think Mindy realized it was the day of Saint
It was Serbian
Wenceslas
themed
or something. And she was like, this is great. I'm going to make cruller.
Mm-hmm.
And when people leave, they're going to find that there's a gift in their shoe, just like they do in Dubrovnik,
Yes.
Dusseldorf, Krakow. I don't know where I can't remember what the day was.
And my shoes were full of coal.
Is that
and
true?
Spiders. Yeah.
Is that true?
She was trying to send me a message.
We have a special box of Christmas stuff that says heretics on it. And it's all the leftover plastic spiders and mood rings from Halloween.
Heretics.
No, we think they'll like that.
That's me every time.
What about you guys?
My sister is, like a full-grown woman now, but she has retained a love of Christmas.
A childlike love of Christmas?
A childlike love of Christmas. And, of course, I have a child who also has a childlike love of Christmas. And my child's mother also has a more sophisticated but still fairly childlike love of Christmas. My mom and I are both Christmas cranks. We're Krampuses.
Christmas with the Krampuses, cranks.
After my sister left home in her 30s, my mom and I realized we didn't have to celebrate Christmas anymore.
The tyranny is over.
And so for years, we went to get Chinese food on Christmas.
That's appropriation.
And hang out with all my Jewish friends down at the Chinese restaurant that we only ever went to. There, as you know, Chinatown is full of great restaurants. We patronize many of them.
This one is only open on Christmas.
It was one that we only went to on Christmas.
It's only open then. It's a themed Chinese restaurant, open one day a year.
One day a year.
TGIC. In here, it's Christmas.
It was wonderful. And then I had a child, and I was reminded, and then my sister returned and reminded us, you cannot
Somehow
deny
Palpatine
Christmas.
returned.
And I said,
bearing a bag of gifts.
And it was such a heartbreak that first Christmas, because, an infant daughter, she doesn't care. And I was getting railroaded into all this Mannheim Steamroller Christmas baloney, and
You were getting steamrolled into Trans-Siberian Railroad?
I was steamrolled into being steamrolled by C.W. McCall, and now I'm fully back. I'm all the way vested in Mannheim Steamroller Christmas.
Yeah,
as you mentioned, you walked in today, and it's all Christmas here.
It's we're recording this. It's not even December, John.
I know.
This is like your house is now a Costco.
Yeah.
That Christmas is up when other holidays are still being celebrated.
No. We're past Thanksgiving. And this year it was decided that we were tired of setting up Christmas on December 15th and then losing that precious 2 weeks of early December Christmas celebrating. And so we were
think of all the nutcracker looking at that could happen.
All the
in
fudge.
Those 2 weeks.
And I am convinced that the more fudge, the better. Right. So in that sense, they've got me by the short hairs.
I was at the gym a couple weeks ago, and my trainer says, well, and I think this is a message to me, the average American gains 7 pounds over the holidays.
Oh, your trainer said this.
And I said, well, first of all, there's no way that's possibly true.
7 pounds.
Think how much fudge you would have to eat.
More than 7 pounds.
Think how many latkes and gelt and Kwanzaa goodies and what do the Scandinavians eat? Lutefisk.
Mm-hmm. Sugarfisk.
Lingonberries and cruller. I think, there's no way. He's every person gaining no weight. There's somebody out there getting 14 pounds in a month.
Well, it's personal trainer cult, right? Because New Year's Day, they're out there saying, come on in.
Let's lose those. I was trying to make it alliterative. The something 7. What's that Christmas word that starts with
Samurai
S?
7. No,
I don't think samurai is a very good Christmas word.
Sultide 7.
Saint Wenceslas 7.
There you go.
That's not that great.
What they want you to do is buy a year membership on January 2nd and then stop going on January 7th.
It does pencil out for them.
Yeah. But there are a lot of Christmas traditions around the world that I wanted to celebrate. In the episode that we're doing, the closest to the Christmas holiday.
The spirit of internationalism.
And, we've talked before about the Catalonian pooping man and also
the CPM,
the pooping log. We mentioned.
Do we only do Christmas traditions with poop in them?
Yeah, a lot of them have poop. We talked about Krampus. We talk about Krampus quite a bit. There are the mummers who dress like weird, spooky ghosts. There are the Welsh people that put horses' skulls on their heads.
Is that real?
Yeah. There are a lot of Germans that dress like murder bushes. A lot of Christmas traditions involve
Serial killers, it sounds like.
murderers. Yeah. People that come to grab your children and take them away. There are some witches that actually eviscerate bad children to see if they have ungrateful stomachs.
I mean, honestly, this is all as divorced from any actual Christian content as a red man in a fur suit.
Oh yeah, it's
coming down your chimney.
It's all just
why
as
not?
pagan as can be.
But the question is, why would you choose that if you can have a jolly red man from a Coca-Cola ad in Life magazine? Would you choose 3 German witches? I guess.
No, but we don't live in as much fear of witches as we once did.
It is a boom time for horror movies, so why not? Why not Christmas horror?
The drummer of the Long Winters, Nabil Ayers, whose excellent autobiography, A Life in the Sunshine, came out this past year. When we toured Europe at Christmas time, Nabil, who identifies as African American, discovered that in some of the northern European countries, Santa's elves are often from Africa.
Did we discuss this? I
Yeah,
think we did.
this has come up before. And those elves, or those, I think the Dutch actually call them Santa's little black slaves, come steal children and take them to Africa. And Nabil obviously became very fascinated by this.
And started stealing children on Christmas Eve.
What he did was take photographs of every example as we went, on tour. So we're all across the country, and Santa and his black elves, often portrayed by Dutch people in blackface.
Yeah, it's all, and even the drawings are all very minstrelsy.
Yeah. And Nabil just, it had a profound effect on him. We talked about it a lot on tour, let's just say. And when we talked about it with Dutch people, they were very sensitive about it. They were like, well, it's tradition, so let's just change the subject. Let's just move on. And we were like, no, but it's a weird tradition, don't you think? And they were like, no, not really. Just sort of a tradition anyway.
That is a funny thing about progressive Europe, is that there's really no way to grapple with your various racist toothpastes and elves.
Yeah, pretty crazy. A real eye-opener. But as I went down the list of all of the different Christmas traditions, I realized every country has super bananas, often terrifyingly violent or weird, and I started to get creeped out, and I wanted a friendly.
I want a hygge Christmas.
Yeah,
you said.
Yeah, something that makes Christmas that puts the fun back in funmas. Puts the mass back in Christmas.
Yeah, 7 pounds of mass.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're very into holiday foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turkey dinner is your favorite food.
I love turkey dinner.
You want a cozy, homegrown, crackling fire kind of a Christmas vibe.
Oh, the one Christmas tradition that my mom and I did maintain, and that we maintain to this day, is her famous Welsh rarebit with ham that she prepares every Christmas morning.
Doesn't that take away the Welsh part? I think the idea of eating a cheese and bread appetizer and calling it Welsh, the implication is the Welsh are pores.
Yeah, well, but you and I are Welsh people that have made it.
We've risen above our coal mining station.
We can put ham on our biscuits and cheese. And so for years, she would, and weirdly, this is a very inexpensive meal that you could make anytime. But any of us. But I was raised to believe you could only have it on Christmas morning. And it never occurred to me that you could make it at any time of the year until I was, I think, in my late 30s. And I said, wait a minute, I love this meal. I love my Welsh rarebit with ham. I could make it in June. I could make it in September.
You could make it with a fox.
But I was tied to my mother's recipe. She made it seem like only she knew how to make the secret cheese sauce. And eventually, when she got into her mid-80s, she said one year, I'm tired of making this Christmas meal. I'm going to teach you how to make it.
Did it turn out to just be a very simple roux with cheddar cheese in it?
Yes. It was not hard at all to make. And in fact, I realized that my cheese sauce is more reliable and good than hers ever was. So that is one thing. Now I make the Welsh rarebit with ham.
I feel like this lesson could be applied to any Christmas tradition. There's no reason you can't set up a pine tree in your living room in June also.
Whoa.
You could trade cookies with your neighbors in March.
Whoa.
Just blow your mind.
Well, that will figure into our story today. As I cast about looking for Christmas traditions that did not involve blood sacrifice,
Or Mariah Carey.
that were not just a carryover, like with a very thin veneer of Christianity put over some awful pagan drowning ritual or like child stealing. I happened upon the great nation of Japan, a place where the omnibus often focuses its loving eye.
It's true. We had their preppy clothes. We had their fanciful inventions. I'm trying to think what other... We had their love of baseball. We're kind of Japanophiles. We're weeaboos on this show.
We are. We super are. And that's
Let's
not
do like 6 shows about Sailor Moon in the new year.
We haven't even ever discussed the fact that we both have waifu pillows, except they're with members of BTS.
Yes. Do those count as waifus if it's members of BTS?
Yeah, even though they're from Korea, it's still a waifu if you cuddle up with it and have that relationship be
Waifus in the eye of the beholder.
more important than your actual human relationships.
Got it.
And it turns out, despite the fact that less than 1% of Japanese are Christians, the Japanese celebrate Christmas. And it is, by all accounts, a very fun time in Japan.
Does it borrow from our Western Christmas iconography? We often think of them as borrowers of Western tropes.
Yes, it does. And in some ways, it takes all the fun
out of Christmas.
And none of the somber or, like there's always, when you were a kid and the tree was decorated, did you turn off the lights and sit and think about the baby Jesus?
I think we would turn off the lights. I don't know if we would think about the baby Jesus.
So I was not particularly raised to be Christian, although my mom took us to Methodist church because that was the church she grew up in, and she felt like you can't be a white kid in America without a little bit of Christian time. So I didn't spend any time thinking about God, except as a rap lyric.
I mean, around Christmas, the problem is a lot of the best art has God in it.
Yeah.
A lot of the, I would say, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, every bit as strong as I'll Be Home for Christmas.
And as you recall, and this may be hard for our younger listeners to believe, not hard for our European listeners to believe, because even though they're, even in the most secular democracies in Europe, they still have 42 Christian holidays per month.
More angels per square inch than any other Christmas.
It's amazing. And they treat them like bank holidays, except, it's like the festival of Saint, what's his butt?
Michael the Dragon Slayer.
But here in the United States in the 1970s, when I was a child, the popular media, the three main television stations and then the public broadcasting system, all the newspapers, all the cartoons, all the news, everything, it was very heavy duty, dripping with Christian piety as a kind of just, this is the Norman Rockwell American story. All you have to do is look at a Charlie Brown Christmas.
But to me, that's the exception, not the rule.
No.
The sitcom Christmas episodes are rarely about, I guess they might have miracles.
Well, 80s ones, yes. But in the 70s, there was still an awful lot of hymns being presented as just like, this is just regular.
Did Jesus give Fonzie a motorcycle or something?
That type of thing. Middle class America, it was just sort of like, you couldn't be irreverent about Christmas yet. And so Fonzie you couldn't have a Christmas episode where people like took the piss out of Christmas. They put the piss back in Christmas.
Pissmas. So it's sentiment more than dogma?
It was just that. It was the holdover from the kind of early 20th century feeling that America, it's the constant fight, right? And I think this is the the conservative, that weird conservative feeling that America has lost something by drifting away from its old traditions. Just the idea that you saluted the flag, and at Christmas time, everybody briefly thought about the baby Jesus and then could get on with it, but there wasn't a feeling. No one said bupkis about any other holiday at the time.
I guess America was founded by Puritans who probably would have burned someone for celebrating Christmas.
The north of America was celebrated by Puritans. The south, they were all getting drunk and shagging.
Big punch bowls.
Yeah. So I remember sitting in the living room with my mom and turning off the Christmas lights and feeling the spirit of God and the baby Jesus and wondering, feeling the spooky, the spooky action at a distance of like the ghostly other.
I've heard you use that phrase to convey many things.
Yes, spooky action,
but
at a distance
never the Holy Ghost.
That's one of my catchphrases. I use it to talk about anything that I can't see because I have no object permanence.
We were at Disneyland last month for one of my kids' birthdays, and we'd never been around the holidays before. So there's a holiday parade. There's and they say holiday, and that does mean there's a place where you can. We walked by a klezmer band playing, I'm sure, Hanukkah favorites.
Yeah,
and there was a craft place where you could choose to make a Kwanzaa coloring project or a Diwali one or whatever instead of a Christmas one. But really, holiday at Disneyland means Christmas signifiers.
Ding, ding, ding,
it means
ding,
trees
ding,
and
ding, ding.
boughs and hollies and bells and candles. But the funny thing is it expressly does not include Jesus,
right?
Which means you watch the holiday parade go by and Mickey and the princesses and whoever else are dancing to kind of Disneyfied. It's almost like they set an artificial intelligence to write. They fed in a bunch of Christmas songs and a bunch of Disney songs, and they were like, produce a version of this that has no actual theological content.
I 100% believe that they have teams of computers.
Such an algorithm?
Yeah.
The songs just sound like, because they have things like, they're just kind of a mishmash of nice sentiments, wonder and dreams and, the hopes of children can come true. Children look at things this time of year. I don't know if you've heard. And there's a spirit of wonder. Yeah. There's a spirit. Yeah. We don't know what it's a spirit of,
Of wonder.
The things are even kind of light on peace and goodwill toward men, which you'd think would be kind of easy. Good universal choices here. Instead, it really is more like, childlike wonder. And boy, there's sure gingerbread when you think about it, and a candy cane on every bough.
And a lot of buying.
Yeah, we're not meant to, exactly. and paying whatever it costs to go to Disneyland now, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And there's never any interrogation of even the kind of the general peace, goodwill toward men,
right?
The stuff that Scrooge learns. It's really it's been watered down to, boy, there sure is a twinkly spirit, isn't there?
Well, this might be an example of, oh, look, it's snowing again. You'll never get home to your weird house on a super steep hill.
I actually moved my car down to a part of the super steep hill that's not super steep, just in case it's stuck.
I know you do that every time.
That's my Christmas tradition.
Weird. Yeah,
moving my car a street down.
Move your car down to the flats. This may be an example of Disney actually taking culture back from Japan. We think about Japanese. The westernization of Japan and Western co-optation by the Japanese as a thing that came post-American occupation.
Yeah.
But in fact, from the time Admiral Perry opened Japan in the 1850s, the westernization, Japanese assimilation of certain aspects of Western culture started happening immediately. It was truly a cross-cultural exchange because Japan was never a colony, and so it was what it was. I mean, opening Japan was opening it to trade, and that trade went both ways.
And the cultural impact went both ways too, because they'd never seen our stuff, we'd never seen their stuff, and everyone was delighted.
Yes,
Europe loved their
Art Nouveau,
their Asian accented arts and crafts, and they loved our what?
Well, all kinds of things. One of the the things that happened within the first 20 years was that Japan adopted the Gregorian calendar. Up until that point, the Japanese calendar was a thing that changed quite a bit. Every kind of successive empire would try and adopt a different calendar, and you would think for being such a inventive and also technologically oriented culture, they would have settled on a calendar, but they kept monkeying with it. In fact, the calendar that they used up until the 1870s, as the days grew shorter, the number of hours in the day stayed the same, but the hours actually changed in length to reflect the different amount of daylight. So, shorter days meant shorter daytime hours, longer nighttime hours.
Does that mean like your school periods also become
school,
36 minutes?
School being a different thing in Japan in 1872, I think.
Your lunch break shrinks?
Let's just say it was fairly confusing, and it was based around a sort of quasi-lunar schedule, so there were a lot of problems. And so one of the technologies they adopted was a Western calendar, and that meant that New Year's, which had formerly been kind of a lunar mobile holiday, became January 1st. And they've been celebrating the same New Year as San Francisco since the 1870s.
That's a real degree of engagement with the newly arriving culture, is to be like, you know what, we're just going to change our months.
Yeah.
That's how into modernization we are.
Yeah, right. And some months based on some Roman emperors.
When you look at how long it took America, or has taken America, to even get on board with the metric system, it's really amazing that this country, within a few years of learning about the Gregorian calendar, is like, all right, we're scrapping our old months. They were good, but this is the future, guys.
Another kind of strange tradition in Japan is that they're very committed to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, which is like it plays a large role in their New Year's celebrations, because German prisoners during World War I that were interred in Japan brought Beethoven with them, and then the Ninth Symphony during the imperial years. It's a very martial sounding.
Sure.
And then when the Empire of Japan allied itself with the Nazis during World War II, Beethoven's Ninth was used as kind of like a remember.
We're into German stuff.
Yeah, this is part of our empire, and so now you still hear the Ninth Symphony played as part of the kind of winter
Happy
celebrations.
New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year.
It's the disco version, though, from 1977.
Dun, 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 dun.
But Christmas is a holiday celebrated in Japan.
What does that consist of?
Well, it is almost entirely minus the titular Christ. There are a lot of festivals of lights in Japan. Different regions have different festivals of lights.
Like around the dark solstice, or just in general?
They kind of different times of the calendar. A different city will have its festival of light in a different time. But Christmas is a time of lights. The Christmas tree is present.
Really?
And a lot of Christmas traditions kind of are slightly modified. So Christmas is actually practiced. So the three holidays that they practice synchronously with the West are Christmas, New Year's, and Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day caught on there.
And
I understand Halloween's getting big in Korea. I learned that from the terrible crowd crush this year.
I think just in our lifetimes, Halloween has spread around the globe and is becoming a global holiday.
I was talking to a Korean writer friend, and she was saying a lot of it is the increasing establishment of queer culture over there. Halloween's often a force of LGBT pride.
Oh, you get to dress
as it enters non-Western cultures.
Yeah, and party on.
Interesting.
Valentine's Day in Japan is not treated the same way as it is in the West exactly. It's more of a Sadie Hawkins Day. It's a day where women can give chocolate to men.
Whereas if they did that on February 13th or 15th, they would be executed by the emperor.
It would seem really weird to do that at other times of the year. I think there are different kinds of chocolate that
I agree.
That you give on Valentine's Day. There is the Giri Choco.
It's a brand?
Well, no, Giri Choco means that that is chocolate that you give as an obligation to your coworkers.
I see.
You're required to give Giri Choco.
I like how they're really upfront with the worst thing about office gifts, which is we all know it's like an obligation.
Yeah. And then Honmai Choco is true feelings chocolate that you give to the one that you
It's not expected, but
love.
I like how they delineate how romantic the chocolate is. Like when somebody gives me chocolate, I'm not like, how horny would you say this gift
is? This romantic chocolate? Because, whoa.
Look out. You're my mailman.
Yeah, I'm looking for Giri Choco here, not Honmai Choco. And then there's Tomo Choco, which is for friends, and Kohobi Choco, which is chocolate that you give yourself.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's where I would spend most of my chocolate dollars.
And is it you buy any chocolate product and then you define it as Giri Choco or whatever, or do you actually shop from a Giri Choco section and stuff is geared toward how it's going to be gifted?
I bet you would. I bet that they are different kinds of chocolate. I'm just going out on a limb here. I bet you that you do not, that Giri Choco is not the hot chocolate.
Right.
That there are certain kinds of chocolates that are hotter than others.
Like it's kind of an erotic bakery kind of item.
Yeah, maybe it's not like the erotic bakery in Wallingford.
R.I.P.
It is actually Christmas that is treated like Valentine's Day. Christmas Eve and Christmas are like
it's romantic?
Yeah, it's the big date night of the year. It's like go out for dinner. It's not really a family holiday. It is it's like I'm going to stop short of saying sex party, but it is like
No, just say it. Say Christmas is a sex party.
Christmas in Japan is a sex party.
And then we should sample that and make it a ringtone. Well, hold on.
Japan is a sex party.
I'm trying to think about how Valentine's Day functions here. It's a big day for it's even Valentine's Day is even a romantic let's go out night, and maybe even more so for like established couples.
Right.
It's the night that 40-year-olds go out to PF Chang's as much as it is. I've got a new boyfriend. What should we do?
The thing is, like, if you're on Tinder, and I'm just guessing because I've never been on Tinder.
You're guessing that I'm on Tinder?
If you were on Tinder, it would be because you were trying to get to TikTok and your Google search auto-completed.
Or I misremembered
which one is it?
Which young person social platform is which.
I want to see some dancing. But, surely you've heard a story of somebody that went on a date or set up a date or it was a blind date and then they realized it was Valentine's Day.
Right.
And how awkward that would be because the holiday is imbued with such weird commercial significance.
Totemic power.
There is not that same pressure, I don't think, although...
Who will I go out with on Christmas?
Yeah, although maybe there is. It's just not... I don't know if you're supposed to buy anybody a diamond bracelet from Jared.
But how does this overlap with the whatever else they've seen in our commercials, the pine boughs and the candles and whatnot?
It all is just... it's pretty decorative and festive. The actual... family holiday, the sincere holiday is New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. In those are the holidays.
That's the big get together, multi-generational.
Yeah. Unlike ours, that's the big go get drunk singles night mania holiday.
They turned Valentine's Day into New Year's into Christmas, and Christmas into Valentine's Day.
That's right. They flipped the switch.
And I guess it makes sense. New Year's is the big gift giving holiday too. Kids with their getting envelopes of cash from grandpa. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
envelopes of cash, which are called otoshidama. Otoshidama, yeah, otoshidama.
Let the record show you
Otoshidama.
lifted your glasses.
I did.
And looked at your transliterated Japanese more closely.
I have an eye doctor appointment in a couple of days because I can't. There's no position I can put my glasses in where I can see anything anymore.
Maybe one lens in, one out.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea.
Something to try.
It's also a day where the tradition is to send postcards, Nenga postcards, to one another. And the Japanese post office, it's the busiest day of the year for the Japanese post office.
This is New Year's or Christmas?
New Year's.
Huh.
If you write the word Nenga on a postcard, the Japanese post office guarantees that they will deliver it on New Year's Day.
Whether it's stamped or not.
I think it has to be stamped.
Oh, okay.
But it's a day, and so these postcards, like, it gives you a chance to show off your calligraphy and the postcard. And there are, of course, because it's Japan, there are various different levels of well-wish
Yeah.
that you can write on the card.
Are these closer to like thank you cards, or is it analogous to our Christmas letter? Is this like the yearly check-in with all your friends and acquaintances?
Yeah, it's a Christmas card,
Huh.
but it's a postcard.
Yeah.
And then there's a very heavy tradition, which is that at midnight, although it has to start several minutes before midnight, I think, they ring all the bells 108 times.
108?
108 times for all 108 temptations in Shinto Buddhism.
I was going to ask if it was
Earthly
a
temptations.
propitious number, but in fact it's an ominous number. Are they trying to ward off the temptations?
Yeah,
or,
I think so.
Or are
Ward
they
off
saying?
temptations.
I see.
And I think the idea is that you ring the bells 108 times, 107 times in the past year, and then the last time, the 108th time, at the stroke or 1 second after the stroke of midnight. 108 temptations.
Do you know offhand what they are?
Well, I would list all 108, but they're just the usual temptations, just split up. Ones that I would consider a single temptation, they have to divide it into.
It's like throwing dirt on your neighbor's lawn, throwing paper on your neighbor's lawn, throwing shards of earthenware on your neighbor's lawn.
Some of us say hentai, but there are like 70 kinds of hentai.
Is that what they're doing? Ringing a bell for once for each of the different kinds of hentai?
Once for each subcategory on Reddit.
For each weird kind of porn that the West doesn't have, the bell will ring once.
But one of the biggest Christmas traditions, and one that I can really get behind, is the Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket dinner.
I've heard of this. This is like an ad campaign gone out of control, right?
Well, yes. It's an ad campaign, but one that coincided with the global, some might say ambassadorship, some might say pestilent virus, some might say
imperialist colonizing.
Right, some might say capitalism at its finest. But in the early 1970s, the American fast food franchise enterprise decided to become a global phenomenon. They all got together and they said,
in a French fry grease-filled room,
you know what? We're not fully taking advantage of the Taco Bell brand. McDonald's, of course, being the largest and most famous sort of American cultural fast food ambassador. McDonald's now in
everywhere.
Almost there are maps that show the countries in the world that do not have a McDonald's.
Is it Russia now, though?
It's a small minority, and now McDonald's has pulled out of Russia. But
remember what a big deal it was when that first one opened in Red Square? I never thought I would live to see it close.
Billy Joel got in there and had a grand cheeseburger.
Has Billy Joel also not been back to Moscow since the war started?
Back to Moscow.
He used to live there, and then he's like, nope, I'm moving back to Long Island. This war with Ukraine is just a bridge too far for me, Billy Joel.
My sense is that the McDonald's in Russia have now all rebranded as King Burger or something.
Probably not King Burger.
King
but
Tut Burger.
Czar
Czar,
Big Mac.
And they may be doing, in the same way that Russia is attempting to build new tanks without ever having fully understood how to build a tank without Western machines. They're also trying to make McDonald's hamburgers without
reversing engineer
the full
fries from scratch.
They don't have all the machines. But Kentucky Fried Chicken is, it may surprise you to learn, the second biggest American food franchise globally.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Really?
I had a front row seat for watching American fast food franchises move into Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, joint ventures with local outfits. And my dad was working at the Korean law firm that did a lot of those deals. So he'd come home and be like, "Good news, guys, Shakey's is opening this summer." And we'd be like, "Really, Shakey's? Well, I've heard Wendy's is coming next fall." He knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, right.
And KFC was always very early in a lot of these places. I think because the affordability and availability of chicken is a lot easier in the supply chains of a lot of these countries, or at least was back when this franchising happened. And it didn't come with all the taboos of, we're going to serve you beef, which was a problem in big chunks of the world. Like almost no matter where if you're in the Muslim world, if you're in the Far East, if you're in India, no matter where you're opening your fast food chain, if all you're serving is battered chicken, you're probably okay dietary wise, and you can probably serve it for like a price point the students will pay.
Right. And fried chicken actually is already a common food in Japan and Korea. Karaage.
Does that predate the arrival? Like, were they already frying chickens before?
Yeah. Oh man, frying chickens. I mean, everybody loves to fry a chicken.
I mean, the thing about fried chicken is no one dislikes it.
Yeah.
It's the best food.
It's pretty good. KFC first arrived in Japan in 1970 as a co-brand, or basically it was a subsidiary of Mitsubishi, and Mitsubishi started, said like, okay, let's give this a try, and this was the
compact car and fried chicken consolidated enterprise.
This was sort of the dawn of this, and you're absolutely right. In the 80s and 90s, when you were in Korea, 80s mostly, right?
Yeah,
that was really like the heyday of this.
Because there were all these other Asian tiger countries, all these places were trying to get into Taiwan, then eventually the Philippines, then eventually Thailand, Indonesia, blah blah blah.
Right now, the country with the second most KFCs is China. Huh. So KFC has successfully, there are like, I don't know, tens of thousands of Kentucky Fried Chickens in China. A lot of people don't realize that Colonel Sanders, his backstory is very colorful. First of all, Harlan Sanders is from Indiana, not Kentucky. And he spent a lot of his life in Indiana.
Not wearing a white suit.
He did not have a white suit until well along.
He was wearing normal brown and gray suits. Imagine if you see Colonel Sanders and he's just a little bit younger and sexier than you expect, and he's wearing like a charcoal suit.
Yeah, just like a regular suit.
What the heck?
There are some hilarious pictures of Harlan Sanders just dressed like a guy.
I'm Googling right now. Harlan Sanders dressed like a guy.
He was born in 1890. He, as a young man, he got a job on the railroad at the age of 16 as a fireman on the railroad. He was fired from that job for being insubordinate to his superiors, and was transferred he got a different job on the Illinois Central Railroad, where he was fired for brawling with his coworkers.
Wow. He's a troublemaker.
Yeah. He then went to law school by mail, became a lawyer, and then was basically disgraced because he got into a brawl in the courtroom with his own client.
Wow. He had demons.
And so he ended up, he was disgraced. He moved back in with his mother at the age of 30. He started selling life insurance, and he was fired from that job again for insubordination.
This is like one of these inspiring things where you read about how somebody failed a million times, and that man was Abraham Lincoln.
That's right.
This is like some grind culture thing.
In the 20s, he started a ferry across the Ohio River from Indiana to Louisville, Kentucky. And this is basically the first time Kentucky appears.
He discovered it
in his story. He's already 30 years old. And then he's bad at business, and he kind of loses his ferry job. Is he still
brawling with passengers?
He's still pretty rowdy.
He throws somebody in the Ohio River every week or two.
He starts selling tires for Michelin. Then he gets into the service station game. He runs a service station, a Standard Oil service station, until the Depression, where he loses everything. Then he starts a Shell station during the 30s, and
this guy moves back home with his mom every 6 years.
He starts selling fried chicken at his Shell station. He'd always been reputedly a good cook. Starts selling fried chicken as a way of attracting, this is like what sets his Shell station apart from the other Shell stations. He has a competitor by the name of Matt Stewart, and he and Matt Stewart get into a shootout.
What?
And Matt Stewart...
Is this like the service station across the highway?
Yeah, competitors. Matt Stewart kills one of his employees.
What?
Gets sentenced to jail for murder, and that eliminates his competition.
It's a gang war. This is his rise to power.
And so then his Shell station...
I think Sanders orchestrated it.
...continues to cook along. He is first awarded an award you and I know quite well, awarded a Kentucky colonelship.
Like us.
In 1935. But somehow those businesses all hit the skids. He does a stint in Seattle during the war.
He lived here.
Just doing, God knows what.
Was he frying stuff?
He was frying stuff, as you do. And it was only in the... and then he ends up opening a chicken restaurant with his wife. He divorced his original wife and had his mistress. He hired his mistress and then married her after he divorced his wife. And they started a chicken restaurant that was again popular, but somehow he ran it also into the ground. And it was in the 60s when the idea of franchising his chicken recipe, franchise was on everybody's mind. And
in the 60s, people just couldn't shut up about chicken franchising.
That's right. And he inarguably had a great chicken recipe. And he started franchising it. You could sell... He was re-awarded a Kentucky colonelship in the 50s and started calling himself the Colonel. And everybody sort of laughingly went along with it, like, "Oh, sure, Colonel."
Well, he didn't have a weird Slavic accent like Colonel Tom Parker.
Yeah, and then he started wearing the white suits. He actually dyed his hair and beard white.
No.
That was all just a total Indiana put on.
The first KFC franchise, I believe, is still extant, and it's in Salt Lake City, Utah, of all places.
100% true.
You drive by it on the highway, and it's like, this is the historic... You know how people come here, and it's a line of Chinese tourists going to the first Starbucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a similar... Except with no line. There's a similar sign for the historic first KFC.
Yeah, the first KFC was in Salt Lake City, and he made this franchise deal where you would give him 4 cents per chicken if you used his special sauce, his special recipe.
4 cents per chicken sold.
4 cents per chicken.
It's an odd deal, but okay.
It's a pretty good deal. I mean, considering these are 60 cents. And by the time he's 65 years old, he's been, that was in the 50s. So he gets to be kind of like retirement age or past. And he decides to sell his chicken franchise to a big corp.
Huh. But they keep him on as mascot?
They keep him on as a salaried chicken seller, and he loves to travel, and he makes the rounds.
He's happier being a goodwill ambassador than he ever was in any of his real jobs. I guess I would be too. If you offered me 2 jobs, one where you have to work and one where you can just
Be a chicken ambassador?
wave in a white suit.
Well, when he sold his franchise, he actually kept the rights to Canada. He sold KFC rights for the world, except for Canada. And at some point in the 60s, he and his wife moved to Ontario, where they lived until he died in 1980. So Colonel Sanders, Mr. Kentucky, basically, lived out the rest of his life in Ontario.
KFC means like Kitchener Fried Chicken.
So KFC was bought by PepsiCo, and then PepsiCo at some point along the way spun off
Yum, right?
Yum Brands, which went through many incarnations, but is basically KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell.
That's why you can see one of those hybrid buildings that somehow has all 3. Those abominations of nature.
And they really do that. They go around the world and they're like, what if we put a Taco Bell in this KFC? The first time I ever saw one of those was in Poland. I was like, whoa, KFC.
It wasn't
and
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell? Yeah.
Oh, I assumed it was going to be Pizza Hut. It's Taco Bell?
They tried. I'm not sure how well that went over but anyway, so in 1970, in partnership with Mitsubishi, they opened a KFC, a Kentucky Fried Chicken at the time, in Osaka for their World Expo. It did well enough that they decided, Mitsubishi decided, let's move forward with this. But there was a conflict. The American fast fooders, the American side of the company, said, look, these do great in the suburbs. We want to put KFCs throughout suburban Japan. And Mitsubishi said, the suburbs of Japan are not like the suburbs of the United States.
Right.
These are not going to fly in the suburbs. They didn't. And so Mitsubishi then kind of took the reins and said, we're going to put these in urban centers. These are going to be takeout restaurants in urban centers.
I still remember the first time I ever saw an urban McDonald's as a kid. And I think it was probably
in a town.
It's probably not in the U.S. It was probably in Hong Kong or something. And I was like, you guys, you order this McDonald's and then you go upstairs or downstairs to eat. I couldn't, because, in the States, they're just in big sprawling wastelands with a place outside where you can crawl inside Mayor McCheese's head.
Right. But these were like downtown McD's.
This is crazy. There's salarymen eating here.
So there was a manager of this company by the name of Takashi Okawara.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know what? Let's really push this party bucket idea as a Christmas thing.
They were already saying, bring home a bucket with all your friends.
And finger licking good and all the so forth. But he had, rubbed shoulders with enough American expatriates to know that at Christmas, they were looking for a turkey dinner. There was no turkey dinner to be found.
Oh.
And Kentucky Fried Chicken was the closest you could get.
It's our fault for eating poultry at the holidays.
And you've heard my story, and I'm sure I've told it on our pro wrestling episode, where my first Thanksgiving I spent away from home was at a professional wrestling match in Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah, you just wandered into a stadium.
And I went and got some Kentucky Fried Chicken and carried it into the stadium with me.
That's your Japanese soul.
To have my turkey dinner. So KFC exploded in Japan
no, they burned down the Chicken Man in Philly
they did
last
not.
night?
They loved.
Oh, it exploded in a good way.
By the end of the 1970s, they had 100 KFCs. By the 80s, they had almost 400, and by the 90s, there were over 1,000. And as far as my very unthorough research indicates, there are way more than those now. But all the how many KFCs in Japan? It's like how many angels on the head of a pin.
But in this case, it's over 1,000 angels.
People argue about it. But
that is a lot of KFC. I mean, that's maybe a third or a quarter or something of the number in the U.S., which is crazy, because Japan's the size of California, probably. You can't swing a cat in Japan. You can't swing a Totoro without hitting a KFC.
Oh, they love to swing cats in Japan. That's another Christmas thing that that's maybe less popular here in the United States. Now, most famously of all the American franchises, 7-Eleven is the one that has absolutely become a bigger deal in Japan than in the United States. There are over 20,000 7-Eleven convenience stores in Japan.
And there's like 2 or 3 other brands of convenience store that are as omnipresent as 7-Eleven. Like urban life there really revolves around convenience stores. And they have really good fried chicken,
Really
weirdly.
good fried chicken. And so at Christmas time, so it was Takashi Okawara who said, let's brand KFC as a Christmas delicacy. And they did this kind of amazing, like iconographic ad campaign where getting a bucket of chicken with your friends was a kind of Valentine-y, like special, this is what brings us all together. We're going to come, kind of those sentimental commercials that really resonated with people.
But does it have kind of Santa Christmassy kind of iconography, or does it look more like a Valentine's Day ad? Like, or here's a thing for that special someone. Does it look more like a Jared ad or a Old Navy Christmas ad?
Well, what they do is they dress up Colonel Sanders as Santa.
Oh, so it is kind of Western Christmassy.
Yeah, if you look, Colonel Sanders looks great as Santa. I mean, he
stopped.
His beard is a little trimmed for Santa.
He stopped beating up his clients and shooting his service station rivals.
But, and he wears like 50s horn rim glasses instead of little Santa glasses. But
I guess we learned earlier this week that St. Nicholas used to just punch his theological rivals.
Got into a shootout with all the other people at the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's mistletoe and there's trees and lights and Santa Clauses. But really, getting KFC is like so much a tradition that almost 4 million Japanese people eat Kentucky Fried Chicken on Christmas.
Just the supply chain issues must be insane.
5% of KFC's annual sales happen in Japan on Christmas.
On that day,
people line up for hours. People can order in advance their KFC chicken bucket.
But fried chicken, you can't make in advance.
No,
but that's got to be. I'm just thinking how hard it is on the kitchens.
I can't imagine. I mean, they must be working.
Yeah.
Well, you can put in your orders like 6 weeks out. Like, here's how many buckets of chicken I'm going to want for my.
But
for
still,
my party.
their throughput is limited by how much chicken can you get in that fryer from opening to closing on December 25th. Yikes!
Right. I mean, and how many? You got to have those chickens stacked up on pallets in the back of the restaurant.
I mean, I like the idea of people doing takeout on Christmas because it's really a bummer thing about our big holidays is that they all come with these very elaborate cooking menus that somebody, and for most of the American century, women were going to be stuck preparing on what should have been, a day of festivity.
Right. Much better to make minimum wage slaves make you a bucket of chicken.
Yeah, let's have high school kids do that. And that concludes Christmas KFC. Entry 220.DE1411, certificate number 24940, in the omnibus. Futurelings at this festive time of year, if you're listening to this now, please consider if you're prone to darkness or depression during the holidays, you may want to be on social media instead. You can find us at Omnibus Project or at Ken Jennings or at John Roderick on various soon-to-be obsolete platforms. Send us an email. Tell us how you're doing. theomnibusproject@gmail.com. Send us your Christmas traditions, your KFC stories, your favorite Japanese convenience store foods. You can also send us physical items if you would like to. It's a little too late to get them by the holidays, but you can send anything you like to the Omnibus Project, P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington 98155. Now, this is a letter I think we got some time ago. Oh, yeah, this was postmarked way back in October, and I had it in a stack of stuff that I thought I was just going to have to sign, and I missed that it was actually for Omnibus. Mark says... Oh, wait, that says off-air PS. Let me give you that. Let me give you that in a second. Dear John and Ken, thank you so much for the work you do in making Omnibus. It never fails to pique my curiosity and make my life. It makes my life better. Thank you.
Of course.
Now, this is my favorite part. I do believe that you misunderstand the libertarians. We don't all own Bitcoin.
Only because you weren't smart enough at the time.
But you can count on our generosity. And so he's talking about the famous generosity
of libertarians. Yeah.
But he puts his money where his mouth is. He sent us this.
Whoa!
All about the Benjamins.
Whoa, I am so sorry I teased you especially and libertarians generally.
Oh, really? I was just going to accept Mark and say I'm still going to make jokes about libertarians.
Okay, me too. But Mark, you are on our special list for your support of Omnibus.
One of the good ones.
Yeah, one of the good ones. I have a lot of friends that are libertarians.
When the Democratic Socialists round up all the libertarians and march them off to our re-education camps in San Francisco, we're gonna do our best to get you a good assignment, Mark.
Yes.
I don't know what that is for you, kitchen duty maybe, but something good.
KFC elf.
Here, let me pass you your.
Oh, thank you.
Your $100 bill.
Wow.
They're very crisp too.
Crisp. That's
like
beautiful.
he's not into Bitcoin, but apparently he does have a mattress at home, like many libertarians, full of crisp new banknotes.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Mark. Very generous. And I was going to open something else. Here it is. This is a postcard from Mike who says, oh, wow. He sent us a Moldorama souvenir. Do you remember those? They're like the
Moldorama.
They're like the penny pressing machines, except you watch injected plastic get molded into the shape of of Devil's Tower or the Louvre or wherever you are.
Yeah. He
sent us. I mean, it's a White City postcard. It's a World's Fair postcard. Is this coming from Chicago? It does. So he's sending it from his World's Fair to ours because what he has here is a Moldorama souvenir of the monorail.
Oh, how cool.
From the Seattle 62 exposition. But apparently there's still a Moldorama machine at the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry, which was their 1893 Museum of Science and Industry.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks, are monorails compatible with Marxism?
Yes.
I would think so. Maybe the people should have more than one rail. Don't the workers deserve that?
No, I think the question is, how much does it cost to ride the monorail? Is it just a like a goofy tourist trap that goes from a mall to a food court, or is it an efficient method of public transportation that is subsidized by the 90% taxes that we charge everybody who makes more than $50,000 a year?
Yeah, all the corporations I was going to say in the food court, but that mall's dead, so.
Oh, well, I guess if it's compatible with Marxism, there is no money, and everybody just rides the monorail for free.
Well, that's how it works for kids. The Seattle just went to free public transport if you're a kid or a teen, and
Really?
that includes the monorail because they put the monorail into the Orca card system a couple years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And what that means is my kid who goes to school at the Seattle Center can now ride the monorail for free. But I don't think they want people to know that because I don't think they want tourists to know that they don't have to buy monorail tickets for their under 18-year-old kid.
Oh.
So if you're listening to this and you're living in a time when the Seattle monorail still exists, never buy a youth fare on the monorail. Just say, these are my teens. They go to Seattle high schools, and they have to let you on.
If you're a tourist coming to Seattle, you're rich, and also you've already made a terrible mistake.
By being rich?
And by coming to Seattle, what you should do is absolutely buy tickets for your kids, and then slap your head and go, "Oh, right, Ken told me that this was free. Oh, too late now."
So that's money's already in our coffers, our municipal coffers, suckers. So this is an interesting. I've never seen one of these injected molded things. It's just kind of it's like those cheap kind of army men, green army men. But it's interesting. The monorail appears to be going uphill, But in fact, if you look at the monorail itself, you'll realize it's actually larger at the front than the back. It's kind of a forced perspective thing. So the monorail is not meant to be going uphill. I think it's meant to be kind of heading at you.
Right. It's in motion. It's an action shot.
To convey the amazing future that's arriving by via monorail in Seattle, the city of the future.
Crucially, the monorail is mostly all the same altitude. That's why you have to go up to the second floor to get on it.
I don't think monorails work uphill. That's when you need to put in your funiculars and your gondolas and whatnot. Thank you, Mark and was it Mike, for sending respectively really the only two kinds of currency I truck with, which are
actual cash
and injected molded monorails. Right. You can find other listeners by seeking out the Futurelings on Facebook or Reddit or other online forums. And the best way to support the show, if you don't have a crisp $100 note handy, I mean, if you do, get that in the mail to us, stat. But if you don't, there are many convenient support options available to you at patreon.com/omnibusproject. And they come with all kinds of prizes that our selfless libertarian friend, Mark, will not be enjoying for sending us cash. If you give with internet dollars instead of American specie, you get free bonus episodes and all kinds of stuff. So check out patreon.com/omnibusproject for more.
Futurelings, from our vantage point in your distant past, we have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. But if the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may have been our final word. But if Providence allows, we wish you many goods and cheese and hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.